Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of Sculpted Through the Darkness Resurrected Revelation. I am your host, Shanice Thomas, of course. And today we have a really beautiful soul with us. We have Evan Gage. And I'm really excited for this conversation, this exploration, and to just bring in a male's voice into this podcast. And I'm sure he'll be the first of a few others, but to just bring in the male voice and to hear your journey, and how you opened up to this path. And of course, the ways that you were sculpted through the darkness. So, Evan and I actually met last year, last September at Joanna's birthday party. And it was really funny. So, yeah, we met last year at Joanna's birthday party. And it was really cool because we kind of just kept finding our way back to each other at the party and we're just yapping up a storm. And that's just how you know that we're both Leos. So naturally, the two Leos are going to, yap it out. But it just felt like this beautiful soul connection instantly. And we were just getting into we went right into the depths in our conversation. We were like in a corner in the kitchen, just having this deep ass conversation while everybody around us is just like, we were in a portal. And ever since then, we've just stayed connected. Our souls, of course, even though we've only met once in person, our souls have, of course, journeyed together and have stayed connected. So I'm really excited to bring Evan on. I really trust his channel, and I'm I think it's so important that more and more embodied leaders are really coming into the light and sharing their journey. So I just want to bring Evan on today, share his journey, his unfolding, his wisdom, his light. And so we'll just kind of go into it. Evan, if you want to I'll kind of start this off by just asking you, um, where do you really feel like you felt God and the energy of Source for the first time?
Mm, get chills as you say that. Wow. I guess first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for being such a beautiful soul and for having a place for people to come and share knowledge and love and wisdom because it's so much needed right now in the world. And yeah, I love our connection. We're just little Leo siblings, you know? So wow, going back, so I just like have always had this sort of like spiritual outlook connection, just kind of like an expanded vision per se. But I grew up in the church and I had a beautiful church. Like it was a Presbyterian Christian church, but very down to earth, like not so by the book, not so orthodox dogma, but more like how we can apply the wisdom to our life type of thing. A beautiful pastor. I was best friends with the pastor's son. I was in youth group and serving and was really close with the band and stuff like that, and just having a really good time and connecting with, people in church per se. And one night in youth group, I had a spiritual experience, we could say, where I was basically like taken over by the Holy Spirit. And, not really even knowing what that was at that time, but I was just like bawling tears of joy and just filled with love and ecstasy that I've never experienced to that point in my life. I was like 12 or 13 years old, so pretty young. And I just saw like a light, and it was just like the room changed. I was in a different place and I was having this experience, and it changed me forever and something I've never forgotten about. And I even have a tattoo of a Bible verse that says, be strong and courageous, do not be afraid nor discouraged. The Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And I just felt that deeply, that that God is not something outside of us. It's not something we have to chase, or God's love is not something we have to earn. It's truly something that runs through us. And it's actually became my rock because life did get difficult as I grew up, and things happen and families split, and trauma, we all go through our journeys, of through the darkness per se. And it was my rock where I knew that deep down, even when it got to the darkest points, that there was a purpose for it all, and that I had a greater purpose. I always wanted to like change the world, and I've always had a big heart. And even when I completely lost sight of that, it was really that connection that sort of always brought me back home. So yeah.
Wow, very cool. And how old were you when you had this
I think I
experience?
was 12, or yeah, it was like eighth
Wow.
grade or seventh grade or something like that. Yeah.
So what was it like to be a 12-year-old boy? Like you were probably about to through puberty or going through puberty and you just like feel this overwhelming sense of energy take over your body. Do you feel like there was any like resistance to it? Do you feel like it was just like because things happen beyond words all the time and was there any part of you that was just like, is this okay to experience this much love and this much ecstasy?
hmm
And at 12 years old, which is insane to
Yeah,
me.
and I think it really was. It happened to me at that age because shortly after that, things did start to get very dark. Like my, family was dealing with, my mother was dealing with addiction. My dad was just not around, and it was like meant to be to keep me grounded. I do believe. But yeah, it was crazy. I used to walk around school with like a Bible, little Bible in my back pocket. Kids would make fun of me and stuff like that, but I just was, proud and um it was so true, to have that experience. And I think that's so important to like the word experience, like church and certain religions can pull us out of, have us searching and like waiting for God or for like the divine love that's in us. And I think it's things like the resurgence of psychedelics now, or like meditation and yoga, that really connect us with the experience of God. Like we can experience God fully, and through that experience, we can really embody the wisdom and the love, where we don't have to like imagine or wait or think or hope for. We can really know and understand deeply in our being. So yeah, it was definitely something that was preparing me for the darkness I was getting ready to embark on, to keep me grounded and never lose sight of the love. So which I did at times, but I came back eventually. So
Yeah. I love the way you said that because I heard recently, and it's just been like locked inside my being, is that our hindsight becomes our
Mhm.
foresight. So once we have that hindsight, we have foresight. So whenever we're really in it, we know, okay, this is always temporary. And I think that you experiencing that at 12 years old really set the tone. I remember you telling me it became like your
Mhm.
rock. It really set the tone for so much of your journey. And I think that it's such a blessing that God gifted you that at such a young age because, especially as, like I said, a boy, just going through puberty and all the things to just have that sense of like, I know that there's way more
Mhm.
than this, can really set the tone. And so, as your journey unfolded and you were like getting older and all the things, was there any part in your journey that you started to feel like it was drifting away, like the energy that you were feeling, the strength, the rock, um, as you got older and you went more into your teenage years?
Oh yeah, we definitely strayed from the path quite a bit. Yeah, so it started like around like late middle school, going into high school. My mother lost her mother. She and I look back now, she was also a deep, deep empath, like deep feeler, but also someone, a lot of strong Virgo placements, a lot of someone that like put all her energy into other people. She was just someone who lived of service to others. And looking back now, just never gave enough to herself. But everything that happened in her life, just like all of us, she soul contract signed up for part of my journey. But so she dealt with addiction and was in and out of rehabs. And my dad just like was hands off, traveling. He just he was processing it in his own ways through his trauma responses. And I sort of was like became, at a very young age, like I had to look after my brother. I had to look after my mom in a lot of ways. The grandparents were coming in and out to help out. Luckily, I have a beautiful, big family, a lot of really beautiful grandparents. And so we did have some support, but what it did was give me a lot of freedom to like kind of get lost in the world. Like I grew up like a lot of us did in the 90s and 2000s on rap music, and so it was all smoking weed from 15 years old and on, drinking pretty heavy, and eventually like as much as we could, almost every night of the week. Other drugs and these sorts of things, sex, the whole nine yards. Our culture was an interesting one to grow up in, and I almost made it like my purpose to become someone in that culture, like to be the cool guy that got the girls and had the weed and fit into this perspective of like my ego. I was really just feeding my ego and just trying to be someone. I was so lost, and of course numbing all the stuff that I was dealing with at home and running away from the pain, and which probably like helped me a lot just to sort of get through those tougher times. But then, of course, later on in life, we have to heal those traumas. Don't go away. We just push them down and down, and at some point they resurface to be seen and feeled and healed. So yeah, it did get dark, and then it was going into like college where my mom got better. She was trying to figure things out, and then in college I did like a lot of even harder partying. I started getting into like ecstasy and MDMA, and when the Molly craze kind of came back, and probably doing some damage to my brain, I would say. And I lost my grandfather at the time who committed suicide. And at this point, my mom had been diagnosed like bipolar and like major depressive disorder, all these things. And looking back, I don't think she even had those things, but they put her on medication. It made her worse. And just watching her deal with these things, it almost became a part of me. I thought like I was genetically inclined to be depressed, to just be like in a state of darkness, and like almost like my destiny was to also just find whether it's addiction or suicide, depression. I just like accepted it as a part of who I was. So when it started happening like deeper and deeper, as I was creeping into these very deep holes of depression, I just like I just embraced it. It was like something that I just had no vision. I didn't see myself living past the age of like 25. Um, people and I can see now I've had this very spiritual connections with different people, and like they were telling me they had dreams of me dying in their dreams. I'm like, and it's just like feeding this darkness that I was in, and I just embraced it. And yeah, to the point where it just became who I was. And I spent, yeah, quite a bit of time, maybe even 10 years, like just in darkness. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's so powerful. I know that our sight, more than ever as a society, we need to really look at our sight and our
Mm,
vision, because horror, like the visions of horror, it encompasses us before we even come into this plane. Like we're ingrained in, like, we watch videos and movies growing up, and people are getting blown up and shot and all these things, and we don't think it really, like, we're just watching
yeah.
entertainment, but these things get ingrained in us. And I really resonate with that. That's something that's been a huge part of my journey. I used to get visions of myself like driving on the
Yeah.
highway.
Same.
like, like what the
Yeah. Yeah.
what what even is that? And a lot of people in the religious context will call that demons, but we'll get into that. But it's just it's so wild to hear your journey on that, because not only did you have this, and I just got like chills all in my crown chakra, but not only did you have this profound experience at 12 years old, but now you're in this like wild 10-year kind of, like, it's almost like you were, not that you were meaning to, but you were seeking that same love, that same ecstasy in the drugs and in the
Yes.
partying and in the girls and in the sex. And we know that that's something that we all humans have, we go through. But it's wild that simultaneously you're literally having visions, to the point of your field was so powerful that even people were telling you about
Hmm.
death. And I think that there's a lot to be said about how powerful we
Hmm.
are, how powerful we really are. Um, in those moments, do you feel like you could still sense God and the energy that you felt when you were 12 years old? Was there any inkling that like there was still something there? Or do you feel like it was just completely out of the picture?
Yeah, I would say so. And I had a beautiful, really amazing friend who you might know as well, Colton Daly, who was my roommate in college, one of my just soul brothers I know from kindergarten. And he was my roommate. And he sort of had like a spiritual awakening in college, stopped partying, was going to church. So he was like getting me to church enough where I would go and worship and feel it. Like, I could connect right away back in that space, just worshiping, because that's how I felt it. I was like singing and worshiping and just in that present moment where it came through, and it could still flow through me. But also, which I know like a lot of old ancient souls can deal with, is like having a tough time here on this planet, was like knowing that there was a lot beyond this and like to take the easy way out. That's like suicidal ideation became just a thing, like constantly thinking in different ways. And like you said, driving off the road or just driving into a tree, no seatbelt, like just weird, dark, thoughts. And so it was like, this, it's the easy way out is just, we know that it's just the end of a chapter, death. It's the beginning of a new chapter. And I think that also, the experience I had came with sort of that knowledge. But I think I just was holding on to the fact that I always felt like I had a higher purpose, or like I think that was a connection to my soul I experienced very young. And I think every single soul, every human being has a higher purpose. And I was blessed to feel that connection, so I never lost sight of that. Like I might be able to do something good in the world someday. So even when it was just not even possible or like completely out of my imagination, there was something higher holding me together. So I never like broke down fully or attempted to take my own life. Um, and I think, later, whenever it did get really to a dark place where it became, where I sort of achieved everything on the material plane, I got my dream job out of college, got my shit together enough to really start like making something of myself, to ultimately get there and realize it wasn't where I wanted to be. And that didn't fulfill anything. So I had the money, I had the girlfriend, I had all these things, and it just kept getting darker. And like when I was actually starting to maybe plan or think about getting out of here is when I lost my mom to suicide. And at that point, it wasn't even an option for me, because I just immediately I felt her presence, and in a way I can't even explain. Like when my dad called me very late one night when it happened, and I knew like already before I picked up the phone, it was wild. And that's when I knew how to get my shit together. I was like, I need to find peace. I need to get back to that love that is within me and get all this stuff out of the way, whatever this is, whatever's in my head, whatever's in my field, and connect back with that truth. So
Mhm. Oh, that's so powerful. I feel like this podcast, we call it Resurrected Revelation. I'm like having all these like resurrected revelations, just like listening to you talk, like for you, even, like I'm just seeing in your field so profoundly how it's almost like you were starting to take the same path as your mom, like the addiction, the drugs, the partying, or whatever. Um, but it's almost like losing her kind of became this whole new level of like, oh wow, it's and you were experiencing like a new relationship to death, and I think that I personally feel that embracing death is a really important part of our journey. I think that that's when we really come alive. Me and Joanna just talked about this on her podcast, but I think that's the last enemy to overcome on this plane. The only and last enemy to overcome is our mortality,
mm,
is death. And I think that that's when we come alive, is like, oh my God, what am I even doing? Right? It's like so many people are working towards like retirement in this old age, and it's like none of that is truly
yes.
promised. And so, why are we not leaning into what we truly came here to do? And do you feel like, when was the moment that, like, do you feel like your mom's passing was what unlocked the higher purpose in your life? Was this a moment for you? Because you were already said this was when you were already making the money, had the girl, and then this happened with your mom.
Yeah, I would say it started the journey. By the way, I just love everything you just said. I had goosebumps my whole body. Just like such high truth. Yeah, it really just like started the journey for me. I was physically, mentally, spiritually done, drained at that point. My financial material was, checking all the boxes, but like my being was gone, was destroyed. And so it started with like getting healthy physically. The company, divine intervention, we can say, like the company I was working for at the time, slaving away. They got bought by a bigger company. It was a good time for me to sort of like jump in. An opportunity arose with a friend of mine to jump into entrepreneurship and partner with him. And it was just, divinely orchestrated. And so I had more freedom with my time, started working out again, started getting healthy physically. Naturally, my mental health started getting a little better. I was sleeping better. And it's almost like a testament. And what I teach and preach so profoundly is like the integrated part of our existence, like body, mind, spirit, it all has to be in check for us to evolve, like truly ascend, like fast. Like if we want to fast track our evolution, it's all got to be in line, harmonized. And it really just started my journey. I spent a few years just trying different businesses and um, finding more of myself slowly but surely as I was getting healthy. You know, a couple years after that sort of point in life, I started meditating, which I was feeling called to do for years. And finally, I was like, all right, I'm gonna make this a thing. Just like the gym, I'm gonna get up every day. I'm gonna check the box, 20 minutes on the timer, twice a day, whatever it is. And then at some point, I started spiritually getting better. Like once the body and the mind were in a position to sort of support the spiritual evolution, I started getting these downloads and I started just getting in touch with that inner peace again. Like without psychedelics, I don't think I mentioned, but plant medicine was a big part of my journey as well. So actually, it was like right when my mom passed away, the next maybe a few months later, I heard about microdosing psilocybin mushrooms, which I had also had a spiritual experience as a about the age of like 16 or 17 with psychedelic mushrooms, and sort of dove into the research. This is when like John Hopkins and the big universities were starting to study this for depression and PTSD and stuff like that. And I love science and biology and nature, but I love bridging it with the spirituality and stuff like that. So I just immediately like found a passion and found some mushrooms, started microdosing, immediately felt a shift in my beingness, more empathetic and compassionate with myself and with other people, and dove in, started communing with the plants, you know, the fungi medicine, and very, very respectfully, with deep intention for healing and transformation, working with the mushrooms, just myself in my room, and you know, reading and absorbing anything I could to prepare myself for what I was doing. To eventually, I did, you know, what they call a hero dose, and was still feeling like this darkness, you know, and battling, going back and forth with it, and really trying to figure out what it was, and you know, having all sorts of weird thoughts that I had picked up along the way, or people maybe implanted into me, that maybe like there was this things attached to me, or things that were like outside of me, controlling me, like making my life dark. And I was like, I'm gonna confront these things face to face. I can't do this anymore. Like there's a block that I'm not getting through with everything else I'm doing. So I took a handful of mushrooms one night, you know, after really, really preparing myself, and I met the light and the love that I had felt when I was 12 years old. I went straight back to that place, and I was just held in it, and I cried and wept with a smile on my face for hours, as just like all this stuff was pouring out of me. And I've had many of those experiences with different plant medicines, and that's why there's such a return of, you know, such a renaissance revolution of them right now. It's because they really do point us back to the truth when done with preparation and intention and respect and reverence. And through that, I really started in meditation. I can connect with that truth, that peace, and that love that I had felt. Slowly but surely, I would get a little more of it, a little more of it. It was almost like breadcrumbs, kind of leading me along to the point where I really started having these more profound experiences in meditation, and everything changed after that. It's like I just the signs are always there, you know, like we have so much guidance. Every single human being is soul, as you know, like guides, angels, teams of help, and God and source and the universe. And like when we can really slow down and just like observe, we start to see it. And I just started following the signs, and like the more we do that, the stuff happens. We receive and we see that the signs were pointing us in a direction. And it's just, I mean, that was probably like 2020 to now 2025 is just like continuing to trust and follow that guidance. And yeah, I'm living a life now that could never have even dreamed of. It's amazing.
I love it so much. I'm just like, should we just sit
Yeah,
here and connect?
yeah,
What do you
just
think?
connect.
Just like stare at each other for the rest of the
Yeah,
day.
so beautiful.
Um, no, that's beautiful. I keep having stuff like just like kind of fly in when you're talking, and there was something that came through when you were sharing, and you know what's really crazy is, and not crazy, but it's almost like you knew. Kind of going back to like the death visions and stuff. It's like you knew death was coming, but it came in the form of your
Mm,
mom. But it's like you knew death was coming, but it's like I don't know if you've watched Wednesday. I've been watching Wednesday on
Mm,
Netflix. It's all about her coming into her
mm,
psychic gifts, and basically they keep saying, of course it's like entertainment, so they keep saying like, oh, she's losing her mind because she's coming into her psychic gifts, but she's having visions, and something that they say is like, our visions can be really unreliable sometimes, because sometimes we're getting the visions and we can't really actually piece together the the reality that's actually
mm-hmm.
happening. So it's just that flew in when you were talking. I'm like, wow, like, and then that moment when she, um, this is just like what I love to do. I love like taking all like the little chaotic pieces and like I'm like, whoa. But she was that breakthrough moment for you. Like losing her was that breakthrough moment for you. So it's just wild to think in hindsight the ways that all those little pieces were coming together to bring you to the activation and the remembrance of what was already there, of course, but the drugs, of course, kind of like clog up the frequency. Our brain is an antenna, and so your brain's antenna was like, like it was just like buzzing around
Yeah.
everywhere. Um, when you were experiencing, so did you know about like attachments and stuff when you were like you mentioned that you were like, I didn't know like if things were like attaching to me or whatever. Did you have any like knowledge of attachments, or did you just sense in your body that something was like weighing on you?
Yeah, I didn't like read into anything, probably because I didn't want to read into things and like find stuff out, that might have freaked me out. But now I've dove into all this stuff and I'm very like aware. And of course, there's like negative entities that can feed on sort of like ultimately the stuff that we create, like it's all free will. And, let's call it the negative polarity, negativity that exists in the universe, in the lower, it's lower dimensional stuff. But they can't like impose their free will on you, like they can only sort of slide in through our own sort of manifestations of our mind. But that's how powerful our mind is. If we can just shift our mindset, and I had this beautiful experience where I just got to see the truth and like realize, again, or remind myself that it was within me, and just that shift in through that experience shifted my entire awareness where it was gone. Like I just knew nothing could really affect me, outside. Like I'm in control of this, my inner reality. And, it's a process of healing and evolving through that. But everything, darkness, light, they exist within us in the human psyche. And that's why I think every spiritual seeker is so drawn to like Carl Jung, who did it better than anybody else. But just talking about the shadows, and, we can be a victim of our shadows until we you know look at them, because they're just, it's also source, it's all source. It's these pieces of us that are damaged and traumatized that want to be seen and felt, and can manifest in weird ways in our brain. The brain is such a wild thing. And if we can just look them in the eye, like see them and allow them to be felt, and then they can just move through us and leave and go back to the light. Like we can truly just transmute this stuff back into the light. um and this is not, yeah, I didn't even realize what I was doing at that time. And, looking back now, I can speak to it. But it's just the power of the, like, of us, of the spirit, of the soul, like manifested in the human form. Like we are so, 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 so powerful, and we can literally just change our mind in one day and change our entire life, moving forward. So
In
yeah.
one day, in one day. I mean, you could. There's been so many times where hindsight is foresight, right? And you just know that like the only way to seize a habit is to stop doing it. And sometimes, like, how many times are you going to tell yourself, oh, I'm gonna start meditating tomorrow. I'm gonna start moving my body. People always tell me, Shanice, you move your body in such weird ways. I'm like, go ahead and try to move your body in weird ways, and then tell me that you're not in a completely different energy than when you
Yeah.
started.
Mhm.
Like, until you experience a complete shift in your being, um, it's just so profound. It never ceases to amaze me how yesterday, me and my sister that I spent the night at her house, we went to the Springs. And I'm always reminded on days like where I'm not on my phone at all. And I'm just like, we were at the Springs and there was a forest we kept going off into. And just every time I'm like in the forest without my phone, I left my phone in the car all day. Every time I'm there, it's the noise of the collective and the energies and all the things we're speaking of. It's just like non-existent.
Mm.
like that energy, I'm just like, what's even a phone? Right? It's like when we're in that energy and we're in that frequency, we're reminded that, like you're speaking to, it's always
I love
there.
that.
We just, all we need to do is attune to it. All we need to do is bring our field into coherence. So as you were on this journey and you're kind of coming into coherence, you're experiencing, you're learning, um, you go into entrepreneurship. I know you mentioned to me you spent some time living on the oh, it looked like you cut out a little bit. You spent some time living on an
Yeah.
island with
Hmm.
your dad. How do you feel like that played a big role in where you're at now? Because you told me that you were like 3 years straight. You were just like hanging out on
Three
the island
months.
and like
Yeah,
living.
3 months. Yeah,
3 months.
it was
Okay.
like basically
I love 3 months.
basically 3 years and 3 months.
Right.
And it's a
Right.
testament to like every single thing that happens in our life. I don't care who you are, what you've been through. Every single moment is serving our greater journey in some way. Like it's serving the greater good. The dark, the craziness, the good, the bad, like it's all serving our journey. And I can look back and see the timing and all this stuff now, and it blows my mind. I'm just like I just laugh because I'm just like I it's already written, you know. I mean, this is what astrology and these things tell us, you know what I mean? And um so yeah, it was when I really started getting a lot out of meditation. I started reading like a book a week, and like these books were leading me to the next book, and I just was like obsessed. You know, I had the awakening on the mushrooms, and I was like, all right, I need more. I want to find out. And actually a big part of it was the growing up Christian and having this experience in church. I had this religious programming that I like wouldn't allow me to go deeper. I couldn't let go of these false beliefs that I had that are attached to fear and guilt and shame, which are, you know, but which is a whole nother rabbit hole, but you know, that are sort of thrown into, you know, just man doing its thing with its interpretation of the masters and spirituality, which, you know, humans have messed a lot of things up over the years. But so it was like I had to know. I was like, I have to learn and convince. I had to know for sure. There's a more universal truth before I can like let go of these religious programs and stuff like that. And that's what I did. I just learned. I was thirsty for knowledge, and through my meditation, it was the learning and reading and also the meditation that allowed me to sift through it and like find the truth in it all, and like what was going to apply to my life. And my higher self would be like just started dropping these gems into me, and I was getting these downloads and writing them down, and I would look back at them and be like, that's not me. Like, what is that coming from? And then you know, finding learning about the higher self and the connection, and you know, that we all have to these higher parts of ourselves that are way closer to God and source, and but that are also within us. You know, they're not separate in any way. And just to piggyback on what you just said, like connection, like realizing we are a part of it all. Like in meditation internally, we're connected. We can connect with God directly, to the universe, to our angels and guides, but also like we're here on earth. Like she's our mother. Our body is made of earth. Like there's no separation. And that's equally as important as like getting in nature and grounding and connecting. There's stuff happening both internally in meditation and externally being in nature that we can't explain. Like it is just we are wired to connect in that way. And we just have been so disconnected. We think we're separate from nature, and that's why you see the world the state that it's in now. Um, and yeah, so I love when you said that. I got goosebumps because that's also a big part. Like spending a lot of time alone in nature with my feet on the grass. Like really, you just can't explain it. Like scientifically, sure, maybe like yeah, the grounding, the connection, the energy, but like there's a lot going on behind the scenes and the invisible that it's just you just trust it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I was in awe yesterday. Every time I'm like around big tall trees that have are obviously ancient, I'm like looking at the roots, and me and my sister Cassidy, I'm just like in awe. I'm like looking at the root in the ground. I'm like, we have no idea what's going on underneath there, but like underneath the soil, and that's what this podcast, you know, the description of this podcast is: the darkness is the fertile
Mm.
soil. And we have that soil in our body, in our womb, in our lower body. And so much of what I feel like your path has really been showing me is that you didn't have to go dig, right? You didn't have to go like take a shovel and dig. It's like life was unfolding for you in this way where you were going into the darkness of your soil, and you were having all these things come up, and the stuff with your mom and the drugs and all the things, this was like a natural
Hmm.
unraveling for you. And I want to even say that you activated the light before you went into the darkness. So it's like God was like, okay, here's your crazy 12-year-old experience, but now you're going to go into the
Yeah.
soul. Now you're going to go to the places that you won't find in church. And I think that that's, um, I resonate with that too. I've been in and out of church the past 4 years. I first went back in like 2019, um, in and out. But every time I'm there, it just like you feel it, but you also know that it's just that's not all there is. Um, and that the church, I mean, the church is our body. So, but it's so interesting to me that we seek the light, but we really need to go into the soil. And everything you're speaking, like the stuff that's happening that we can't see, that is the soil. I was just in awe yesterday. I'm like in the forest. I'm like, I forget and remember like being in a because here in Cape Coral, I'm in like Cape Coral,
Hmm.
Florida. There's not a lot of forestry left. Unfortunately, they've built car washes on top of car
Hmm.
washes on top of storage units on top of like. There's not
Yeah.
a lot, and so you kind of have to really go out of your way to be in the forest. But we were 3 hours north near Orlando yesterday, and it was just I was just reminded. I was like, all right, it's time to go back to Costa Rica. Like, I'm just reminded like we're cut off from the literal frequency of what we
Yes.
are day in and day out. Like these, it's great that we have this. We can do these. We can stay in connection and do these podcasts. But besides that, we're cut off from the natural, very natural
Hmm.
world that we're meant to live
Yeah.
in. How do you feel like, and that is the mother, and I think your experience with losing your mom can really deepen your connection to the earth now because you have a reverence toward the mother that I know many humans are evolving into more reverence toward the womb, toward the mother. Um, so as you're journeying, you were reading for 3 months, you're on the island. What kind of unfolded after that?
Yeah, so I was sitting again with the mushrooms quite a bit on the island and like once a week going pretty deep and just continuing to heal. I had this wild experience where I was able to like really embrace forgiveness and I like forgiveness is powerful. I just got chills, but like I had this experience where I forgave every single person, human being that's ever done anything to me, and then also forgave myself for everything I've ever done to anyone. And I didn't realize all the guilt I was holding on to. Like I was really tough on my little brother growing up, and like I've always been very like intelligent and sharp, and I can see it's a shadow side to some of my aspects, and I just was completely blind to it. I was like a condescending asshole to like, the closest people to me. I was always very nice to strangers, and but people close to me would see my shadow side, and just like forgiveness became just such a beautiful thing. And it's like if we can truly forgive ourselves, we can then learn to like truly forgive the world and like all this stuff going on. We just develop like an understanding that everybody's damaged. Like we're right now humanity is a product of like eons, thousands of years, millennia of darkness. And reincarnation, probably anybody who's watching this like gets, obviously reincarnation is a thing, but like there's a lot of people that don't get that. And but once we realize that, we can transcend the just like the downsides of humanity. It's just a product of the cycles of time. And um yeah, it's just like, and then like what you said earlier, like the fear of death is so big, and if we can just really grasp the eternal nature of our being, like all that stuff goes away. Like Jesus said it, like if you don't have to believe in that he died for your sins to, um, get eternal life. You just have to remember what you are. Like you just have to remember your soul, your eternal nature, and boom, like death is not a thing anymore. And I think that's why. I mean, this is, getting back to the divine feminine and stuff like that, it was pushed away for years. We can see the powers that be or that have been that were responsible for that. But I think it's just like, it's all connected and it's all this divine plan unfolding. And we have this resurgence of the divine feminine. And a big part of that, like where I am now and where I'm able to really, really hold space for women and men in such a beautiful way is like I got so deeply in touch with my feminine. And a lot of that is the connection to the mother, to Mother Earth, and even the divine mother of the cosmos, like the metaphysics, and that's a whole nother thing. But it's just so important, especially as like men. I work with so many men now who are just so blocked up. Like we're just products of society telling us to, put everything down, never cry, blah blah blah. And um, women are so good with their emotions, and that's why you see so many leaders now, like all these beautiful women, especially in like the spiritual world, that are really, really just embodying that love and that wisdom and such, just like yourself and some of our friends. And it's just it's so beautiful. A lot of the work I do with men is like divine feminine, like that's the healing. It's like we're crying, we're getting deep, we're feeling now. That the divine, the feminine is about feeling and just like flowing, and this is like of the heart space, and that's kind of where the world's going now, or hopefully majority of the world, but definitely a lot of us. I even forgot what the question was. Oh yeah. um,
No, keep going. I love it.
Yeah, so 3 months on an island by myself. My dad has a house in Little Gasparilla Islands, like a little family getaway, and I was basically by myself there. Just was connecting and healing. And when I came out of there, I had like another dark night of the soul. I had a lower back injury that like came back, and a lot of people might be familiar with like the Saturn return, and it was that for me. And but it was just when I was getting ready to like come back, I wanted to get in the gym. I wanted to like hang out with girls again, and I wanted to like do all these things. It was like the universe telling me like, no, like you're doing another year of staying in your room and meditating and reading, and it forced me. Like I couldn't. At one point, I got this procedure, and it kind of got exacerbated, and it was not like a surgery, but like an injection. So I just felt like I could go back to the gym, and woke up the next morning after my first workout, and I could barely walk. I didn't think I was gonna be like walking the same again, and basically just like got thrown back to the darkness to be sculpted some more, literally like completely,
Yep.
and just embraced it. Continued reading and meditating and healing, and my back pain was going away, and started traveling again and got in a relationship with this my ex in Mexico. And basically I had like this year of my life where I almost went down another path where I thought the world was taking me, like get married, have kids. I had a job that was paying well and like settle into this life. And then when I was getting ready to get married, literally like we were getting engaged ahead of time and married for the visa situation. And
When was
this is
this?
like 2023. Yeah,
Wow.
so like right after the island and like healing for a few months, so like 2023 summer, I met her in Mexico, and we dated for about a year. But along this journey, I was continuing to heal, continuing to read, like continuing to meditate deeply. And at some point, I started receiving these messages like, "Hey, you can do that. You can be happy. You can marry this woman who you think was your dream woman, or there's like this other path that is sacred and your soul's purpose and why you're here, and you can't even imagine what it is, but you have to trust and you have to surrender." And I was getting these very clear downloads, and was like, go this way where I could see it all. It was made sense logically to my brain and everything that I had known at that moment, or like fully trust and surrender. And I was curious, so I like was playing with the options, and I said I needed some external validation. I went to get like a past life regression to see if maybe I had had a family in the past life and I wouldn't want to die right into a family. Maybe the sacred purpose would make more sense. And ultimately I started going down that more sacred path with the curiosity and like the signs, boom boom boom, like the my past life regression turned into a 3 hour reading, like directly channeled from source, like telling me things that I had just never imagined. And it was all like, I don't, a lot of people know the Law of One books. I was going deep on the Law of One books and like just like unlocking this remembrance. Like I had almost wrote the books myself, and but was doing so much work on my ego because that was such a big thing for me, feeding my ego on my journey, as a young man, where I didn't want to give my ego anything to hold on to and feed itself. So I really needed like some external validation and signs from the universe. And if we ask and we really like from our heart ask for signs, we receive them. Like it's just how it goes. And I'm just blessed to have had the awareness to receive the signs and just continue. And I just continued surrendering and surrendering and surrendering, and it turned into this vision I had that started at that reading where I was going to be traveling the world, something I always wanted to do. Like I felt it in my heart. I thought I would do it when I was 50, had all the money, and was just like retired, do whatever I want. And it was like, no, you are going now. Like you just don't even figure out the finances. They'll work itself out. Like it's gonna be okay. Just go. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it early 2025. I switched. I was gonna do this job and make more money. And it was like, no. I did that job for 2 weeks, quit, booked the whole entire trip. My first trip to Peru. I went out there for 7 weeks in the mountains, working with the plant medicines and the shamans. And that was last year in November. And my last year since then, I've lived 50 lifetimes, and I'm evolved just levels and levels and levels. And it's because of I've just surrendered to it and followed my heart's calling. So
It's just because I surrendered to it and followed
easier
my like.
said than
I
done.
love that word. I love no. I talk to people all the time. They're like, "Yeah, Shanice, okay." I'm just like, all you have to do is like feel all your feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but that's so beautiful, and I can definitely see like in your aura and your field, even since I met you last year, how much because you've done a lot of like those ancient adventures since we met. I've been watching your journey, and you've gone to like different places, and I feel like there's such a there's a friction point that happens when we're in those moments where it's not that we're looking for signs, but we're being presented with signs, but we're still simultaneously experiencing friction inside of our body, and that can be such a like a catalytic so my grandma, okay, I just have to add this in because of course I made this really spiritual, but my grandma just her car broke down like a month ago, and she needed a because we are like cars,
Hmm.
right? And so she needed a new part for her car, and it's called a catalytic
Hmm.
converter. And so basically this the catalytic converter, I'm definitely not a car person, but we're gonna go on here. The catalytic converter is what helps the engine
Hmm.
start, right? And so I feel like when we're in these friction points, we have these like catalytic conversations that are either going to start our engine or they're going to you could have so easily done what so many do and got married
Hmm.
and lived a life where all of a sudden you felt like your soul was being suffocated, and even though you loved this woman, um was there, because we can have a whole other podcast on like relational dynamics, but do you feel like she was also feeling this with you too? Like could she tell that there was like any type of like friction or anything happening, or how do you feel like that unfolded in that
Yeah.
way? Because I just feel like your relationship to the feminine is so strong, right? And I think that these moments can really deepen
Hmm.
it. So I would love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. She was very tapped in too, and I can see the karmic connection her and I had, where probably some past life stuff we were healing, and we ended the relationship on a really beautiful note. We were friends for a little bit, and it just, we just have gone our separate ways at this point. Um, but I can just like look back now and see the healing that was done for both of us. We both kind of came into the relationship with some damage with relationships and these things. I had never really like dove into love before. I'd always been like had commitment issues in my past relationships. This is like the first time, like right from the gate, I just like felt something special and dove in. So we did a lot of healing for both of us. She had an ex that was like abusive, and she had a daughter who was a very beautiful soul, and her baby daddy was not the greatest guy. So there was a lot of healing that took place. Um, but then yeah, I think I was changing very fast. Like I was evolving from the inside, and it wasn't like there was like distance. I think yeah, maybe she definitely felt it, but I don't think she wanted to believe it. Um, I was going there like 3 4 weeks, and I would come home for 2 weeks, and then like my time coming back to Florida would just get a little longer every time. We would have talks when I would go back, so we could both feel it coming. Um, but like that relationship, just like all relationships that we have in our life, like served its purpose. And I can say now, like this is actually something new. I have a new girlfriend for like we just met like literally a month ago, and I could do another whole podcast on the synchronicities that happened before that and like bringing us together. But like literally have met my soulmate, and like head over like I literally love this girl with all my heart, and it's because like we're soulmates. This is not our first time connecting, and it's like we've had so much confirmations on this with all sorts of stuff, but I can just feel it. Like I have no doubt about it, and it's just a testament to like me becoming whole, like truly becoming whole through all these relationships, through my past relationship, through my inner work. And then also her, like she was on her own journey and she was becoming whole. She was also traveling the world. We're like mirrors of the same exact expression. Like it's wild. But like there's someone for everyone in the world. Like I have no doubt about that. And it's really about us becoming like whole, like coming into ourselves fully and getting on that authentic frequency where we don't need someone to give us love, or we don't need to get something from somebody or put all of our eggs in someone else's basket. We can have everything we need inside of us and then attract that mate, that person that really, really is like meant for us. And the divine timing just allows both of those people to come together at that right moment. And yeah, it's just so beautiful. And we really are here to love and be in community and be in relationships. And the spiritual path sometimes can be very lonely. You know, we spend a lot of years in solitude and learning and meditating. But once we come into wholeness, it's like we just feel the urge to connect. And this is why things like this are so beautiful, the podcast and community. And but yeah, relationships have been such a beautiful part of my life for learning and evolving. So
Yeah. I mean, relationships really come into our relationship to life. And it just seems like so much of your journey has been this continuous deepening into surrender and having a true relationship with the mother and the father, and really coming, because that's what wholeness is, right? It really is this innate mother and father experience that we have inside
mhm.
of us, and then everything just gets to be
Yeah.
enjoyed as the beauty that it is. And I think that I love like your unfolding and how you had this partnership, like you had these like catalytic moments, and each time it's life gave you a choice, like a choice point. You either surrender deeper into this and follow this sign, because it's not like life was like, hey Evan, if you leave this woman, you're going to meet your soulmate a little bit over a year from now. Like that wasn't something that you were happening. It was just, you just knew that there was just something. You didn't know exactly what. And I think that a lot of men, females too, but a lot of men can really struggle with kind of. I think sometimes women are almost, I don't want to say better, but we can be more evolved in a sense of really being in wholeness. And I think that nowadays a lot of men can really struggle with their sexuality and with their sexual energy. And we have like the polyamory freaking like rise up, and so many people, we could probably take all these little topics and put them in different podcasts. But um, do you feel like, because you work, we can bring this into the work that you do now, because you do energy work, and obviously the energy of creation is our sexual
Hmm.
energy. And so I feel like a lot of this kind of came back to your own containment of your sexual energy
Mm.
and the transmutation of your sexual energy into your purpose, to now meet your soulmate, and to be so sure, which is like rare nowadays too. Like I feel like so many people, um, they can be flighty with stuff like that, and to just be so sure and certain, like this is the woman that I was meant to meet in this lifetime. Um, and now that goes into like your sexual energy and stuff. Like, do you feel that that sector of time that you had traveling, what kind of brought you into where you are now with, like, because I want to kind of bring this into the work that you
Mhm.
do now and how you're like your Egypt trips and all the things. But give us like a little bit more of like a breakdown of um, how these past, I would say 2 years since
Mhm.
2023, how these past 2 years have brought you to like the energy work and to like the profound miracles that you're seeing happen in your
I love
field.
that. This is actually a huge part of my journey. I'm so happy you brought this up. So when I had dealt with the back situation, my soul return and was forced to be in my room meditating and reading. I went celibate. I was like, for the first time, I was like, I'm gonna do like I had been reading about.
Love celibacy.
Yeah.
Sorry to guys, listeners. I think that everyone needs to practice celibacy in this lifetime. I am so grateful for
Mhm.
celibacy. I would not be the same woman that I am now without it.
100%. And it's very tough as a man that like grows up just like, wanking it and having sex all the time, for lack of better words. So, but yeah, I was like reading about all the benefits and all these things. I forget the name of the book that talks a lot of it's, hopefully it comes to me, but it's a very popular book that sort of like introduces it to a lot of men. But, yeah, I started, yeah, just being abstinent, practicing celibacy, and like 30 days felt a really crazy shift in my energy and my meditation. 60 days felt a even crazier shift. And then I ended up getting to about like 100 days. And then I went on this like vacation where I sort of with my friend who, it's an up and down journey. I've sort of fell back into the shadows for like this week or two, and but through that like 100 days of celibacy, I learned how powerful it is, the spiritual energy, like the kundalini, whatever we want to call all this stuff. Like I read the book Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza, and I was studying shamanic energy medicine with Dr. Alberto Villoldo, and I learned how to move it. Like I just started with my intention. Like I was doing these meditations and I could start moving it around my body and moving it to places to heal like parts of my back. And I was having these really wild
Yes.
experiences and like was basically like healing myself and like upgrading my chakras and like harmonizing my entire, system, my energy system, and my having these really wild experiences. And I got that beautiful taste. And then I met this girl in Mexico. We had a relationship for a year, having like a lot of sex, kind of great, but almost like throwing me back into like old ways in a way. And it was a beautiful, journey of love. But one of my first downloads when it was time for me to, when the sacred path was sort of coming to me in this relationship was it's time for you to be a monk. Like you need to go celibate, like for a long time, not just 100 days, like a fucking year or two. And I was like, how does that work? And then I was like trying to work it with my girlfriend at the time. I was like, hey, like I kind of want to like save this energy. I'm getting the download, like to sort of start tapping back into that energy I did last year, and it just didn't work out. And sort of skipping ahead now, like I'm out of that relationship. I just went celibate again, went abstinent again, and same got to like that 100 day mark, and was just like full of life force, like can't even explain it, and just I can see now how it was just like my gas tank, like it was my fuel on this whole journey where I went to Peru and was, working with ayahuasca and bufo, having these crazy experiences and like being in such a clean state energetically because of this work I had been doing inside of me, where I was thrown to the underworld. Like I was in the heavens, I was everywhere, but just like grounded and just like receiving everything and so clearly. And it was a testament to this, not just like inner meditation work, but like work harnessing this sexual energy and just like upgrading my energy system from it. Um, to like along that journey, I always knew that I have been like a healer in many lifetimes through these like downloads. And especially when I was working with ayahuasca in Peru, the plant medicines have been also something I've probably been working with for many lives. It's like being with old friends. Like when I'm in those other dimensions with the spirits of these plants, it's like literally being with an old friend. I'm so comfortable, and I got the download that I can like heal people. Like, and I knew like my presence. I'm a great listener. I hold space. I had been doing that stuff. I had done like mushroom ceremonies and felt what happens when I'm in those ceremonies. But like it was like, you can put your hands on people and like do miracles type of thing. And
Yep.
but I didn't have the confidence. Like I didn't try it for months, and then I ended up connecting with some beautiful friends here in the community in St. Pete. My friend Soraya, my friend Alicia, who I met through Joanna, and she kind of Joanna brought me into like the St. Pete community when I really needed to be around people, like-minded, conscious people. And I just like went for it. And the first session I did, um, this girl, my friend Alicia, had a wild experience, like went on a full journey, and I just unlocked the gift. And then ever since then, this is like this year in like February or March or something like that. So I waited. I got the download in November. I could do it. I didn't start doing it till like March on people. And now, I mean, I've probably done, I don't even know, maybe, not even like 100 sessions, maybe, I can't even, I've lost track. But if it's someone who's never experienced energy healing meditation before, someone who's experienced a lot of it, who's very running their own light consciously, everybody has a profound experience. I have unlocked a really beautiful gift. And it's part of doing the inner work. We all have gifts. We all have the same gifts at some level. I think eventually we'll have all the gifts, but like when we do this,
Oh,
yeah,
totally. I think we have
a hundred
both.
percent. That's what I tell people. They're like, what did you just do to me?" I'm like I just did what's
I just
yeah,
am.
exactly. I tell people, I just
Right.
pull out what's already in them. Like I'm just a channel for what's already in them, and it comes out, and I don't even know what's going on. I get to hear the experience after, which is my favorite part. But like
Yeah.
just like trusting, we all have gifts and we can unlock them just by creating that coherence and that harmony, and women just have that, like they're so powerful, like women are definitely way more tapped in spiritually because of that womb energy. Like that is special. Men have to work on it. They have to build it. They have to conserve and like
Yeah.
it is. They just got to be disciplined. You know what I mean? And women do too. Like they shouldn't be just like throwing their womb all over the place. Like that's an energetic portal that we give and receive energy from. You know, all this crazy sex stuff.
Oh
We're the
yeah.
generation of the Scorpio, Pluto. You know, we all have our Pluto and Scorpio, which is like a we connect with sex. But it has to be done in a healthy way, and and honestly, I wouldn't have sex with anybody, for the last year or two that wouldn't be whole in themselves, haven't been doing the inner work, because it's just we get more energetically sensitive as we continue to like evolve, and yeah, that's a portal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just even kissed someone for the first time in 2 years, like around my birthday and stuff. I had kissed someone, and even just like kissing was so
Yeah.
sensitive for me. I'm like, whoa, like I've gotten so, and I used to, I have a lot of like the similar background as you. Like a lot of my 20s was like drugs, alcohol, sex, just like kind of, looking for it everywhere else. And so it's just like crazy when you really do tap into that sensitivity, how sensitive you
Hmm.
become to the energy, because it really, like I said, it is the energy of creation. This creation, it doesn't just create a human life, it creates life. It creates the world that we see. Like nature is sexual
Yeah.
AF, you
Yeah.
know? The trees, like a lot of trees literally look like yonis.
Yeah.
If you like look at like the inserts in the trees, like nature is so fruit. Don't get me started on fruit. Like fruit is so sensual,
Hmm.
so sexual, and yeah, I just love that you're. I love that we were talking about celibacy, and I know we've talked about it in DMs a little bit about like sexual energy, and I think that that's like a big place for people to even start is like where is your sexual energy at?
Hmm.
You don't have to fully go celibacy or whatever, but where is your sexual energy? Because I think that that in and of itself is what can create attachments and all these things that we know. The more that the more that I've like come into myself, and like I said, like even kissing someone has become so like I'm like I can like tap into their entire soul by a
Mm.
kiss. I'm like I need to be a little bit more, even more
Yeah.
mindful, about the energy that we're communing with, because at all times it's like we are engaging with sexual energy, whether we want to call it sexual energy or not. And I love that that's given you the purity, like that purification process. I call that the purification process. The purification process that you move through brought you here now to where you're able to hold these profound experiences for people, because you're not leaky, and your energy isn't all over the place, and
Hmm.
you can talk to a beautiful woman and not be leaking your energy. And I think that we need that so deeply. Like more men, more women need to be able to just like have these platonic, beautiful soul connections, without the energy leaking. And
Mm.
the fact that you can hold space for women is so profound. I think more women need to hold space for men, and more men need to hold space for
Hmm.
women. Um, I think that our world would be really different. The whole like, I recorded a reel that I'm going to be posting soon, but the whole like men versus woman thing has just become out of date, in my opinion. Like, why are we still arguing about who's texting
Yeah.
who first? Let's like actually come together and like create true
Hmm.
power just just through our platonic, like our communion has been so platonic and so beautiful and so soul worthy. And I think that more of that would really like just change everything. So I would love for you to kind of, since we're already on the topic, what are ways that people can find you, work with you? And I know you have a really cool retreat coming in February that I would love for you to talk about, and then we'll kind of like close out.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to piggyback on what you just said, from like the male perspective, like the whole celibacy thing was like I had never had relationships with women in my life because it was always this sexual drive behind it, and was not interested if it wasn't. And it really truly allowed me to develop some of the closest soul companion friendships that I have ever had in my life, like yourself, my other very just beautifully spiritually evolved humans that I didn't just would never have found without this spiritual journey. And they're mostly women. Like it is what it is right now. Mostly the spiritual communities are a lot of women because it's the rise of the feminine. The men got to get with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, gotta get with it.
And that's what we're here to do. Conversations like this and the community's growing. I'm seeing like men show up now. Like I'm working with some really powerful men that are going deep into their feminine. They're crying, they're healing, and it's incredible. Um, but yeah, so I do this work, very, very deep work with people. I call it coaching. I'm a facilitator of healing, a healing guide. But it's like you can't put labels to this work that we do. It's just like we're just souls living our purpose and guiding others back to their light ultimately. So I do, it's coaching, body, mind, spirit, integrated health, getting the whole system in a place where spiritual evolution can really catapult and really evolve. And then my greatest passion is doing the energy work. So energy healing. I have a space in Lutz. I do in person and online. It's the same. There's no time and space, as we know. So like my online sessions.
I know you're making my hands tingle right in the back of my throat. They're like they're like pulsing through my body. I love
Yeah.
it.
So it's like I just did a session yesterday morning with a guy online, and he was visiting different planets and dimensions. Like it's wild. It's just I have really been honing my gift and craft, and it's incredible. Like we can do. It's just like plant medicines. Like honestly, like a couple sessions, even just one session, people can go through like eons, millennia, like karmic healing, like healing their entire lineage and really going through some deep stuff. And but also at the same time, I'm feeling people who have done a lot more healing. They come to my sessions and they get more like soul activations, like really diving into their multidimensional self, bringing those gifts into this lifetime, upgrading their DNA, upgrading their chakra systems. Like really opening up their heart. Like I do a lot of heart work. Um, I'm literally seeing miracles unfold here in my space and online, and it's really, really incredible. So I do, the coaching, the energy work, and then yeah, Egypt. So I'm doing retreats and expeditions now, and some of them will be men's only because we know that's a big thing right now. So those will be super intimate, but most of them will be co-ed and doing so my first one will be in February in Egypt, or my first time in Egypt. Doing something like this. I was just there in February, got all the codes and was like holding space for the group I was with at that time and just feeling very, very comfortable in Egypt. I have a Mars line, just some very like divine masculine energy in Egypt, but it's gonna be incredible. A bunch of light workers, higher consciousness people, awakening souls coming together. Like I can feel the group being put together already, and we're just going to be just flowing. Like it's going to be super fun, super relaxed, all inclusive, just for people to really have the best experience and like plenty of time and space and doing like meditations and activations for integration. But without saying too much, my Instagram, people can find everything, all my links and all that stuff. My website's on my Instagram. But just like a little teaser, like we're gonna be doing like a full on private showing in the Great Pyramid, like activation, like literally doing what that thing is there for, like literally activating the pyramid and stuff like that. So it's gonna be wild. And I'm trying to get everybody who's called to go. So yeah.
Nice. So I'll put your Instagram and your links and stuff
Mhm.
below. And if you're listening to this and you just so happen to be in St. Pete, he also, or around Lutz, Florida, he also does like these in-person energy work stuff.
Mhm.
So just keep that in mind if you're someone who is around that area. Um, it's so freaking beautiful and profound. I feel like we could keep just like ranting and yapping
For
forever.
sure.
Um, but I've been asking, I'm doing this thing where as we're closing out the podcast, obviously, Sculpted to the Darkness, Resurrected Revelation, I would love to hear how you, Evan, would even begin to define a resurrected revelation. What's a resurrected revelation to Evan
Mm.
in Evan's simplest of terms?
Mm. Getting in touch with your true self.
Mm.
Yeah, going deep, and that true self that is the same for all of us, like the soul that's and what it's connected to. Like that is a that is a true resurrection. And when we can get in touch, we get in touch with that, everything changes. Our reality completely changes. So yeah.
Yes, and you know how you could do that, friends? Put away your phone, go sit outside for a day, and then tell me you don't feel like a crying
Yes.
person.
Connection. Yeah.
Because we're never alone, and I think that that's something we can close this out with too. Is that I'm in a season kind of like where you were, where I just got my own bedroom, and I've just been focused on like coming into my own space and my own intimate bedroom, um, reading my books, doing my journalings. I don't really leave the house much, so I'm kind of like in that season where you were speaking of, and it's not isolation.
Mm,
I wouldn't even call it solitude because we're never actually alone because we have instant access. Even if you have a little patch of grass, you have instant access
mm,
to life itself, to reality itself,
absolutely.
and it can be so easy nowadays with our phones to feel like we're separate or isolated or anything of that sort. But whatever season you're in, if when you're listening to this, I hope that you can take Evan's story and his journey from 12 years old, spontaneous activation to like drugs, partying, sex, to losing his mom, to all these things, to now being an energy healer. Then I think that we all have the capacity to live our dream. And the dream life isn't what we think it is. It's not the cars and
No.
things and things and things. Like it's a knowing inside of
Yeah.
us, and we're all living the dream right now. We just need to see
That's
it.
so
So
beautifully said.
I really
I
appreciate
really
that, Evan.
appreciate you. So good to see you and connect. This is beautiful. So thank you so much.